Hello everyone, my name is Draco Dark Rider, and I am with
The Jade!
And this is my review on the Monster Hunter movie. But anyway, we thought that would be funny. So recently I watched the Monster Hunter movie at cinemas, and honestly, being someone who has played the actual game Monster Hunter World, I've played a bit of Generations Ultimate, so I'm not like I'm complete expert, so don't get me wrong on that. But I am a great fan of the series, and when the movie came out, I'm just like, you know what? Let's have a look at it. And ironically enough, I will say it's not as bad as people make it out to be. So
shock horror.
Now, I will say that I have got a few points that I'm going to be mentioning about how some good and bad points that are on it. However, I will put right now, this is a spoiler warning for anyone that does not want to be spoiled by the movie because, well, if it wasn't obvious by this being a review, even if I can't show clips from the video because of copyright, I will still be talking in detail about the movie. So if you don't want spoilers, this is your chance to click off now. Just fair warning, as that's something that we would like to do so we don't ruin the movie for people that want to still go see it.
And for the 5% of people who stuck on watching this video, who didn't want to get spoiled.
Yeah, so overall the story is pretty basic-ish. It's not really that hard to follow. The characters, for the most part, are likable. I'll get back to that. We'll put a pin in that one. But when it comes to the overall, the graphics are great. All the monsters look phenomenal in the movie. The characters aren't too annoying, at least the main character, which I might add, this is probably the funniest thing. The question is, how do you make a character destined to be a main character? You give them a name that doesn't even remotely fit in the normal, because our main character is named Artemis, which isn't a normal name that you would have in today's generation.
It sounds Greek.
Yeah, it very much is. Which, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the name, I just find it funny that, everyone else has got pretty much standard names, then you have Artemis, the main girl character, I'm like, okay.
So let me guess, is the team like Bob, Steve, Artemis?
No, they're more military-ish names, I forget exactly, it's because it's been, a couple days since I watched the movie, I forget the actual names of the others. I could always look it up, but yeah. The only characters that I have an issue with, in general when it comes to characters, is some of the ones that come from the actual game. Because if most people don't recognize them, it would be surprising. Almost all of the characters that are in the Monster Hunter World universe, or just the Monster Hunter universe, they're all referenced based on characters that you actually find in the game. You have the guy that you find, I believe he's based on I think he's the commander's son in the game. You have the admiral, who's the biggest one there, I forget his name, but he's voiced by the same guy that does Hellboy, and a few other ones.
We're talking about the good Hellboy, not the bad Hellboy.
The good original two Hellboys. He also does the arms dealer / kaiju dealer in Pacific Rim with the cut over his eye.
The good one, not the sequel.
Yeah, not the sequel. I like we're constantly saying that. But it was mainly the other two that you have, the A-list hunter and the serious handler. Now in the game, although he's a little obnoxious, the A-list hunter still isn't that annoying. He's just peppy, which is understandable. It's like a young hunter that wants to prove himself, so that makes sense.
He made it up in the end.
Yeah, the only one that was kind of annoying in the game was the handler, but that was because she didn't shut up. The handler in this basically speaks for 3 lines, I think. or like something like that. She doesn't really speak at all.
The big question is, Draco, does she say pard?
No, she doesn't. Though I don't think she has a partner at the current moment because they haven't really gotten to the events of the game, which I will get back to on that. But yeah, she like you got the serious handler and the A-list handler who, at some point during the movie, they have captured Artemis because her and the hunter guy find their team again. They get captured. She gets knocked out and then put into a cell with handcuffs. And then you have the A-list hunter and the serious handler. Now, with a name like Serious Handler, you kind of can tell that she's, well, serious. In the game, although she very much appreciates her partner's antics, she doesn't really do much. She doesn't do anything silly. Yet she's the one doing whistling sounds to try to provoke the main character into being aggressive while in the cage. Why? I just don't understand why they making her and her partner seem just like arrogant dicks, which is ironically enough the only times that they aren't arrogant little pricks on screen. The other times is when they're either being chased by monsters or being their ass kicked by monsters. That's the only thing that happens on screen for them. They're either getting beaten up by monsters or they're being chased by monsters, whereas the Admiral, the main character, and the hunter guy are the only ones actually kind of fighting the monsters. But no, so pretty much for the story, if you pretty much summed it up from the trailer, the main character and her team go into the arid area to try find where, well, Bravo team went. They find the stone tablet things that that's where apparently they disappeared. You hear them talking about how the Bravo team had just vanished, and next thing you know, in one of the radio things they had, apparently the Bravo team talked about a storm before they disappeared. They got caught in a storm. Then you have a bloody seizure warning because apparently during the middle of the storm they drive off a cliff that came out of nowhere. Then through rapid light succession and crashing, you have one hell of a seizure warning before their cars have been totaled in some new desert that they found, which of course is the Monster Hunter world. So yeah, they do that. They, of course, one of the first big events is they come across Diablos. Diablos, for the most part, she looks gorgeous because it is a black Diablos. They never actually reference that at all in the movie, but everyone knows. Not only is the actual skin coloration dark and black like it's supposed to be, but if you type in Black Diablos into Google, literally one of the results is the movie's picture.
You know the reason why they chose that one as opposed to normal Diablos?
Because it's very aggressive, yeah.
No, because it's darker and more dangerous.
Well, yeah, but it's darker because it's aggressive, because it's, well, in heat. Well, yeah,
Moving on.
Actual fact for you guys, the way the Monster Hunter ecology lore works is that Diabloses, the females, when they go into heat for the mating cycle, they turn black, and it's very rare, but they can actually keep that afterwards. But that's why they're so aggressive, and that also explains of why in the movie the one that they're getting attacked by is overly aggressive, because it's a female in heat, and in lore-wise, females that are in that part of their cycle, they will attack anything. They will go after anything with a blood rage. So that's why it was so dead set on kicking the shit out of, well, everyone.
Moving on.
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, the reason why the hunter was alone through that good chunk of the trailer that we saw is because one of the very first things you see at the beginning of the film was they're on one of those sand ships that are from Generation 3. They're actually taking the ship across the desert. It looks like it's on the water. It looks awesome, but you actually have a herd of Diablos attacking, which normally wouldn't happen. But as I looked up, apparently Diablos and Black Diablos actually will team up during a short period of the mating cycle. So that explains why you had like 2 or 3 Diabloses attacking the ship. But Only thing I found as an issue was there was about 3 different occasions where the Diablos were trying to bite the humans. Like when they were past the horns, and I'm like, these things are herbivores. And their heads are a lot harder than their heads and their tails are a lot harder than the rest of their body. So why would it try to bite someone when it could literally just headbutt it if someone's past the length of the horns?
Maybe the military have a military mandate to have cactus
Cactus scented cologne.
cactus scented deodorant.
Or it's just like all of them just like are related to Sokka from Avatar in one case because he drank the cactus juice.
Well, unless they're part cacturn.
Unless they're part Cacturn, that is also an excuse. The only other character that I have slight issues with is the Meowscular Chef. Now, you're on screen now, like, during this entire time when I've talked about stuff, you would have been seeing stuff on screen. But then you have the Meowscular Chef who...
Yeah.
They really gypped him in the movie. He not only doesn't look anything muscular in general, like, the only thing he's got going for him is he's, like, tallish compared to what most palicos would be, but he's kind of slightly shaggy but more drowned instead of what he looks like in the game. He doesn't look like he has much muscle mass in general, and to make it bad enough, we have the technology to make our voices sound like a whole bunch of stuff. We've seen monsters in other movies. We've, like, hell, Doctor Strange has Dormammu with that deep monstrous voice. You have voices of that are being able to change into so many things. And yet the Meowscular Chef has a really high, one of those high-pitched normal meows. It's like, it just sounds like a normal cat that's like slightly pissed off. And I'm like, you didn't even try to give it a deep voice. In the game it has a deep voice because it's the Meowscular Chef.
He doesn't have a deep voice, Draco. He growls.
Yeah, he pretty much like growls and stuff. How did you not think to this? Like, how could you fuck this up? And yeah, he also has that trailer part actually did happen where he blows a kiss to Mila Jovovich's character. Like, as they're leaving the boat, he actually blows a kiss to her and she finds it hilarious, which, so do I. I mean, it's just like, do pelicans find humans attractive? Looks at this scene. Confirmed!
You know, that would have been funnier if he was big, buff, and has a deep, growly voice.
Oh yeah.
It would have made it so much funnier.
Yeah.
If they had to do it, they should have done it right.
Yeah, I will agree to that. But the one thing that was good about the story was that although it was, like, for the most part, pretty simple and kind of like point A to point B along the way, it allowed you more focus on what the movie was about. Because what's one thing that a lot of monster movies fail at? Failure to show enough of the monsters. They either focus way too much on the story that you have very little monsters, or it's nothing but monsters so there's no story. With this, it allowed you to have a story that you could easily follow, but allowed you to put a perfect amount of focus on each monster. Except for one, which I'll put a pin in, because that's my biggest issue. But, yeah, the one thing that will actually make sense for a lot of people is during the scene when they actually finally meet up with the other hunters, there is a point where they, like, you actually find the animal, he can actually speak English, and he says that he says later on that there's actually been others that have come to his world. What they're actually not telling you there, which only people that have played the game would actually know, is that there is a reference to that in-game. Because about a month before this movie hit cinemas, there is actually a 2-part event quest in Monster Hunter World, where you play as Artemis, and you fight a Black Diablos in the Wilds by Waste, and then you fight a Greater Rathalos in the Ancient Forest. I actually have a video of me doing my first time fight of that on the channel.
Besides, Draco, you're not saying it right. It's Greater Rathalos.
They changed that. It's a lot. I believe they just say Rathalos now.
It's hard to say if that's better or worse.
Yeah, but yeah, the reason why he can speak English and the reference he's making saying that there has been others before her, he's actually talking about her, because in the in those two little scenes, you're when you're going into the new world, you're actually going into it years before the world's events happen. So, where the story events happen in the actual movie actually happen long after when you actually have the event missions. So you're the one that teaches him English. The Artemis in the after you do the two missions, when she goes back to her own world, she gives him a book that pretty much will eventually teach him how to speak English.
We just love bootstrap paradoxes.
Yeah, it's like so. One thing I do find funny though is if she went back to the past, to the Monster Hunter World universe, and it was before the events of the movie. I'm like, what happened between the events of the game to the movie that the Meowscular chef lost all of his muscle mass? Like, did he stop going to the Readmiral's training camp? Because it's like, he's buff in the game, and then you get to the movie and he's like, what happened to you, man? Where's your deep voice? Did you just go hippie vibe?
You let yourself go, man.
Yeah, but like, I do like that little attention to detail where it's like, for the people that play the game, they actually understand all of it, because it's like you get to realize they're doing a subtle little joke saying, well, he knows English, and there have been people in the past that have come to their world, but both events were her from a different time. Time travel tend to be a pain in the ass.
Yes, because a simple solution would have been too easy.
Yeah, but when it comes to the movie's world design, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, the deserts look great. There's actually, it looks like a bit more colour to them than the saturated crap that we had in the trailer. The forests look really gorgeous. And then we get into one of my favourite / not favourite parts, is one of the best design areas is the gigantic spider nest underground. You have a gigantic literally, you'll probably see a picture of it on screen, but literally it's a gigantic underground cavern with like web tunnels leading to giant balls of web with web tunnels. It's like a whole web system, and that's the Nasilla nest. And even that, every single monster in this game is brought up to god levels of graphical quality. Like, these monsters look amazing, but at the same time, that means that Nasilla, the gigantic fucking spider, looks absolutely terrifying. But then we get to what, with all the things I can say, like, as I said, there's good and bad sides to both things. Like, the only little bad part I have about the monsters is not actually directed towards them. It's directed towards the army team, because, as Jade himself saw, in the trailer, you saw that she had a military team with her, right? But for the rest of the trailer, when it was with all the hunters and stuff, none of them were seen. And that's because they all get killed off really fast.
I assume by the Diablos.
2 of them. Out of there's 6 of them in total. Because what happens is, when Diablo, when they finally get to the gigantic skeleton, which the gigantic skeleton you actually get a better angle of, it's actually called a, what was it? I've actually got it written down here because I wanted to make sure I referenced it. I think it's called the Darren Moran skeleton. It's like a gigantic sand whale. It's a whale about the size of Zora Magdaros that can swim in the sand.
Is it as slow as Zora Magdaros?
No, it's it can actually move pretty fast. It can keep on pace with we can keep on pace with it with sand ships.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got a gigantic skeleton in the sand, and you can actually get a better view of it. That looked really nice. And then when the hunter warns them about, the hunter tries to warn them, he shoots one of the bones with chalk, and then of course, first they open fire on him thinking that it's bad, but then she realizes it's chalk before something in the sand is coming for them. Something in the sand is bursting towards them, and after a few attacks, you see Diablos finally burst out, like you see in the trailer. She proceeds to kill 2 of them by first she hits one car, which sends it flying with some guy in it, to the point where he hits one of the bones of the skeleton, then the car hits him, so dead. Another guy that was one of the other cars got hit, and when the guy was crawling out of it, he got gored straight through the chest, though it didn't go all the way through. It just, for some reason, stopped to the point where it was stabbing him, but not going all the way through. I don't know. So he died and was flung away. The rest of the team did get away, and it was literally almost moments after. Like, they run to the rocky area, they go through this rocky tunnels and stuff, trying to get away. They actually get up into a cave. The Delbos digs properly, which I like, but when it realizes it can't really follow them, it digs into the sand and then just sticks around being pissed off. And literally, we had only just had the Diablos attack. The 2 members are dead, and then literally they're in the cave. They live this open cave system for like a few seconds, like just to have a conversation with one girl freaking out, and then a Nacilla scene happens. Like, you have one Nacilla pop up, full on stab, like sting the main character with like, I guessing some type of parasitic no, paralysis. What's the specific word to paralyze them?
Paralysis.
Yeah, it pretty much using a paralysis venom to knock the main character out. The other 3 guys, or 2 guys and a girl, they try to get to safety, like, because they realize they can't wake her up, so they try to run. The one guy who was foreshadowed to die, because when they were back in their other world, you had this one guy sitting in the back of one of the jeeps, and he had a fly swatter, and he's counting his kill counts of how many bugs he's killing, because apparently he's pinpoint hitting bugs with his fly swatter, and he's had 17 kill counts today. So you tell he was going to die by the insectoids / arachnids. So yeah, he gets one of those typical web shots to his back, hoisted up, and then had his head literally devoured on camera by one of the Nacilla. You then literally just have the main character where, while she's slightly trying to wake up and trying to crawl away, you hear the screams of her friends in the background as she's trying to crawl, before she's got a gigantic spider in front of her that just, I think, knocks her out. You just see the abdomen thing rise up, and then darkness. Before one of the second grossest scene in the movie, you see she's actually in this gigantic flesh sack. Like a legitimate black flesh sack that she now has to rip her way out of, which next to her is the headless guy and the girl that she was with. They're both dead. So she finally ripped her way out. We're in the nest now. She's in one of the web nest things. There's bones and sludge are all around her, and it looked great, don't get me wrong, the graphic is good. So she tries to find a way out. She finds a chamber with the eggs, the very, very see-through, critically baby egg sacs of the baby spiders, and that's when she comes across her. Do you remember the guy that did the closing eye in the scope?
Was it actually a thing, or was that just...
They slightly fixed that. That actually was a thing, but they slightly fixed it that when you get a closer look at it, when it goes back to it, you actually see that his eye is slightly open, so they did edit that clip. His eye is slightly open now, but the issue was that he's very injured. They need to find a way out. They're getting closer and closer to the exit when one of the big Nacilla, because there's Nacillas of all sizes there. There's big ones and small ones. But the big one there, one of the big ones there, finds them, and at this point, when she's trying to hold it off with a flare, this is where probably, if you're arachnophobic, this is the part of the film where you want to skip past, because what happens is he's in utter pain, so they need to tend to his wound even though they're trying to fend off a spider. That's when they lift up his shirt, and all of here, he's got a big ass wound there, but there are eggs laid inside the side of his chest. Like, they're actually partially in his body, and there's a whole bunch of eggs there, and they start hatching. to the point where little spiders start crawling all over him, and then he's yanked away by one of the big spiders, where you have little, medium, and large spiders going to town, devouring the crap out of him.
And we just lost 4% of our people watching, leaving just 1%.
Yeah.
Thanks, Draco.
Yeah, like that scene, like, I won't show you the actual complete scene of that, but oh, that's because of copyright, but hey. That part alone was again, the graphics in it were great, but the problem is that also amps up the horrifying factor to the point where this is probably the first proper horror scene of a spider done that's not in a spider horror film. So, yay? I don't know if I should be excited or scared of that. But yeah, eventually she gets her way out. She finds the hunter. They spend a good 10 minutes brawling because he's kind of following her in secret. She finds a ship thing, like one of the destroyed sailor ships. The hunter guy finds it inside there. And by God, like, these two don't know how to take a chill pill, because first off, he's trying to save their life from Diablos. That's fine, that's sure. But then he finds her in the ship, and they have an absolute fist fight for like a good probably 10-ish, 5-ish minutes. Like, it goes for a really long time, literally just them beating the crap out of each other. It's like, yes, you both have fighting skills. Whoop-de-fucking-do, get the fuck over it. Oh. But eventually, for the first time, he wins. He ties her up. B's kind of an asshole to her. And yeah, they hide up in the hidey hole that he has apparently near the Nacilla nest, because of course he does. Which is actually quite scary, because the ground below, you have this entire flat area of rock where you've got all these mounds that look like termite mounds, like the huge ones that you see in Africa. The thing is though, at night, because these apparently Nacillas don't like daylight, at nighttime, every single one of those mounds explodes as a spider crawls its way out of it. So you have like the Rise of the Walking Dead bursting out, but it's not zombies, it's giant fuck-off spiders. That are faster, if not as fast as we can run, so we're fucked either way, because there's an army of them. But yeah, the second time they fight, they kind of burst out of their little hidey hole. Hunter guy almost falls into the den and almost gets eaten before Artemis saves his ass. So that they actually become kind of friends for that. Product placement. She gives him a Hershey bar, or a little bit of one, and calls it chocolate. And he's like, he loves it. He's like, chocolate, chocolate.
Everyone loves chocolate.
Yeah. And of course, this is one of the only words that they kind of share, being the fact of, well, he can't speak English.
Well, he doesn't speak English, he speaks Monster Hunter.
Yeah, which I do like to have the language barrier, and it kind of adds on to the whole why only the Admiral can speak English. And the reason why he doesn't remember her is because she kind of told him to forget as he vanished, or as she vanished in the storm. So
the Admiral can just disappear by will now?
At this point, because let's face it, there's lots of times where we don't know where the hell he's gone. But the one thing I will say, that when it comes to the Admiral showing up, it's quite funny, because they did keep that scene in the trailer where pretty much the way that scene worked is they're in the forest area, it's late at night, something's flying around in the darkness, though anyone that even remotely knows Monster Hunter is just like, that's Rathalos. They don't even hide what it is, they just give you glimpses of it, and it's like, that's Rathalos. It burns the crap out of some forest. They see it slightly, and you have the hunter guy just like, Rathalos. Because there's pretty much the only parts that seem like they're in English is when he's saying the monsters' names, because apparently there's no dialect translation difference between that.
The monsters' names are universal.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, then you have a whole bunch of the Apsaros running on fire. You have the other team members finally meeting up with them and actually rescuing them. The Admiral actually lands in front of the Apsaros herd with Artemis, and with a switch axe is sending like full-on waves of fire out and swinging it around with his switch axe to like deter them from charging at him. And it looks kind of epic, I guess. And then when the herd's finally over, just like, she says thank you, expecting him not to answer. He turns around and speaks perfect English, like, don't thank me yet. She just looks at him dumbfounded because he can actually speak English. He smiles. Bang! just smiles and knocks her the fuck out with a punch to the face. It was so glorious. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing because it probably hurt like hell, but it was funny. But yeah, you had the next scene where she's in chains and she's finally let go. You actually got a scene where when she tried to break out of her cell, because apparently there was like a lock to the lower level on the bottom of her cell for some reason. She used a way to get under there. She actually found the muscular chef for the first time, and when she's leaving, you actually got to look back and you got a scene from the game with his cooking scene. You got to see him chopping the meat, doing the fire, and even doing the little garnish, like little lettuce top.
Did he have his
No.
little Palico?
He's the only Palico in the movie.
Oh.
He like, even Palico is a universal thing because it's just like looking at Domino. It's like, what are you? It's like the HUD's like Palico, and then you have a zoom in with like the cat's eye thing. Oh, it was funny. Probably one of the things I had to laugh at though, being a player of Monster Hunter, when you hear the Admiral talking about like the tower and stuff that you see in the movie all the time, they talk about it's like the ancients used the most powerful monsters to guard their secrets, the Rathos, unkillable, and I'm sitting here just like, really, black dragons, elder dragons. Hell, Devil Joe, Rajang, and you're picking Rathalos as your unkillable here.
Well, they had to say something for like the sequel. They can't just...
No, I'm gonna put
okay.
Remember how I had my biggest issue? That's tied to that. Oh. We'll put a pin... We'll keep that pin for now.
Okay. We'll put a pin in that pin.
A pin in that pin, yeah. Yeah, so I did feel the Hunter's deaths in general kind of felt rushed, but it was okay. The horror scene was really good and well done. The monsters in general look great, except... The monsters look great, don't get me wrong, but I feel sorry for every single one that dies in the film. And I'm going to go in order to when they died, because that makes sense. Now, to get around the Diablos, you saw this in the trailer where he talked about... In one of the trailers he talked about how Nasilla, like he's speaking to her, it's just like, Nasilla, Diablos. Like he's actually explaining it like that. But when so they have to pretty much do it like the best thing is he has one of those, like, you know how you have that smile when you know something bad's about to happen? He gives one of those smiles because it's just like they're looking at all the like they're looking into one of the tunnels for Nasilla, wondering on how, like, she's like, okay, so how are we gonna get out and how are we gonna like trap it and stuff like that. He just turns and smiles to her, which you know what's gonna happen. It's just like she's just looking at him wondering what the hell he's talking about. You cut to her immediately in almost nightfall, standing in the middle of all the mounds and stuff, singing one of the military songs they were singing earlier. Because they were in the Jeep earlier with her team, she was singing this military song. She's now yelling it in the tower, in amongst the pillars, trying to lure one of them out as bait.
I imagine the code name for a military group is either Monster Bait or Red Shirts.
Possibly. I mean, but yeah, she ends up getting chased by it, and it almost catches her quite a few times. And when it finally does get trapped, ironically enough, I don't think they pick the trap very well, or at least the hunter's case, because she ends up getting pinned between the rock and a Nacilla that can still technically reach her, so she's constantly having to dodge its attacks as it's trying to reach her while it's still trapped. And then you have the Greatsword guy do the whole run off a rock jumping thing. Now, in the trailer, it looked like he just stabbed it. Not so much the case. Now, this is the only time I'll feel sorry for a spider, but he comes down with his greatsword and legitimately, graphically on camera, he cuts the damn thing's head in half. And you actually see the head split open.
And did small spiders crawl out?
No, well, we've already had our horror scene for the day. For the year, month, decade,
yes,
century. But yeah, it's like I do feel sorry for that spider. So yeah, they get the part. He gets one of the fangs ripped off. He then a bit of nice little ecology where it's of like how they use the venom. He actually gets the gland and the inner part of the fang, takes that entirely out, and puts the fang on a metal-tipped arrow with the fang just slightly farther than the arrow. And the gland that has the paralyzing venom, or whatever it is, he wraps that around the arrow itself, so it actually makes a paralyzing arrow. Then they set some stuff up to attract the Diablos. They do that, like they start picking a fight with the Diablos to try... Well, they first try to run as far as they can before it comes after them. And then he shoots the big metal arrow. Now, I understand we don't get to show too much in the games because it's still somewhat kid-friendly in the sense that there's no blood and there's no, like, anything too graphic for the children.
Well, there's no blood in Monster Hunter World.
Yeah. Like, so there's nothing too graphic for people, but there's still multiple ways to, like, hit a monster. No. His arrow shoots straight through the damn thing, eyeball, on camera. Like, you actually see the arrow go straight to the damn eye. And I feel absolutely sorry for the damn thing. It's like you see the gunk from the paralyzed all in its eye. You feel absolutely sorry for it. And if that was bad enough, then you have the guy jump on its head, kind of mounting it. You have him dig his greatsword downwards into the... He doesn't go actually that, no. He flips it out, tries to stab it at, what's the legendary sword? Excalibur style. He tries to stab that into the creature's head. So it's sunk a little bit, it throws him off, he goes flying and hits his face on one of the bone things again. It was actually quite painful by the looks of it, and it did because it almost killed him. But he got hit really hard, then it was her turn. She ended up getting off after a rocket launcher to the face didn't hurt him that much, which it's Diablos. I don't think a rocket launcher to the face from a normal weapon's going to work.
It wouldn't be much of a Monster Hunter movie if, our world weapons would affect them.
Yeah. The bullets, he didn't give a shit about the bullets, and he didn't give a shit about the rocket launcher. It kind of stumbled him for a little bit, but yeah, he just shook it off. And then she got in his head and pushed the sword all the way through to the point where it was straight through her brain, and it died. And I'm like, I feel really sorry about that. The whole greater Rathalos thing though, when they finally at the tower, they're explaining on how the tower itself is being fueled by magma, it's creating and controlling the storm, and that is also allowing it to create a portal between the worlds which is unstable.
Okay.
Yeah, it does all three at once without anyone working it. It literally, apparently the magma powers the system inside. It creates and controls the storm above, and it allows you to create the portals, whatever. But apparently they're unstable. They need to shut it down so that way the portals stay closed. But what happens is they finally get there, and multiple times you've seen the sand turn to glass, because apparently this specific Rathalos, if not all the Rathaloses, have the ability that with their fire, it burns so hot it can melt sand straight into glass straight away. Now, in this particular case, it swirls around, it shoots a fireball that ends up kicking and burning the living shit out of the A-list hunter and the serious handler, which after the previous scene with them acting like little spoiled brats, but they're fighting, like they end up fighting the Rathlos there. It lands. He I think like the first time they miss, and when this is where I have a slight issue with it, and at the same time a not slight issue, where I had a good look at the dual blades that she uses. They're the Girototus dual blades, the actual bone variety. Where the only reason why I know is because it's the normal bone Girototus blades. However, it has the fish's insignia plate that's there, like right by the handle. So that's how I was able to tell they do water damage, which technically is a 1-star. However, that's a lot better than the Admiral and every other weapon that I've seen that they were using against the Rathlos, which were fire-based. Because you saw the Admiral slamming his axe down, sending waves of fire towards the Rathlos. And for people that don't understand that, it's just like, well, why? Well, most people would realize, why would you use fire against a fire-breathing dragon? That's understandable. It makes more sense when you realize that in the game, fire doesn't do shit to a Rathlos. Like, there's a big X saying, do not use fire. But what do they use? Fire! Because visual! I mean, you could send out an electrical wave or something like that, or make the fire like purple to make it a reference of dragon, but no. Sorry, fire has to be the way. So that has to be a thing. And you've also got every Switch Axe player in existence asking the big question, why can't we send waves of fire out in gameplay? What the hell is this shit?
Sure it wasn't a charge blade?
No, because it was an axe. Like, it actually had an axe. So that's how I know it was a Switch Axe.
Okay.
Because most charge blades, they've actually got a blade form or
Sword form.
Sword form. So it's like they've pretty much got a sword form of that. They don't actually have a solid just axe form. But yeah, like they end up. I think she ends up pissing it off. She ends up being chased off a cliff, which ends up sending her through the portal. She lands back in her own world, and at first, like, let's face it, you think that she's gonna be safe, but you realize there's still runtime of the movie left. No, like, she gets one of the healers that were looking for her. A bunch of helicopters and tanks and a whole bunch of military people will show up. They get her to a stretcher into one of the helicopters. They're gonna try to rescue her, and
then she's like, why do I hear boss music?
You pretty much, because like at first they did a fake out where it's just like you saw a shadow above her. It had the shadow of the Rathlos, but no, it was a helicopter because of fake out. But when she's in the helicopter and she's taking off, and they're just like, "Where's the rest of your team? Where's the rest of your team?" It's like they did it. Like she didn't say anything, but she's like, just shakes her head, and that's when, well, Big Boy shows up and decides to kill everyone because he first destroys the helicopter she's in, which equals more shaking around. It then proceeds to go after all the tanks, which don't do shit, especially it lands on one of the tanks, grabs that turning bit on top of it, rips it off, reaches in to grab one of the humans and eats them. And its fire was able to easily bust through glass and all of that of the cars and just burn everyone alive. But probably one of the best ones is the plane. The big ass plane that they had in the movie. It was flying across, and the greater Rathlos flew up. It grabbed both sides of the wing, and then immediately decided to pull back, ripping off both wings with ease and letting the plane itself crash onto the ground as it just drops the wings. It's just like my airspace, bitch.
Well, it is supposed to be king of the skies.
That is true. Now, like, it dies in probably the best way. Now, for avid Monsterish movie viewers, as well as Dragon movie viewers, I don't know how many of you guys have seen it, but there's a movie called Reign of Fire. Now, Reign of Fire was a pretty good post-apocalyptic dragonish movie. There's actually a lot of top-tier actors in it. I know Gerard Butler, Christian Bale, and Matthew McConaughey are the three main stars. I'm hoping I'm getting their names right. But yeah, like in that movie, you had a phenomenal dragon death. This is the first movie I've seen to top that, because they always talk about how the greater Rathlos has the whole thing in its mouth, whereas just before it breathes fire is when it's its most weakest, which is the same principle as the other one. It actually shows you how it creates the fire with a kind of scientific way, where as it's charging up, you see this weird gas being poured into its mouth. So what she do is she...
Is this the scene where she grapples onto it?
Yeah, like, at first, well, she does that to the not to the Rathlos, to the, what do you call it, the Diablos, to stab in the head. But, she grapples onto it to try, stab it in the face and all that. Then what she does is she gets a flare, I believe it is, or an explosive-ish round. She grabs it, lights it, and then puts it in a slinger and shoots it into the Rathlos' mouth as it's about to breathe fire, causing its internal system to combust. Now, that's all good and all. Like, it blew up quite a few times, it fell over, it looked like it was dead. No, it's not dead, it got back up.
So they pulled a charged folder.
Yeah, it got back up, and now, then you have it looked like it's about to kill her, then you have it get hit with a few explosive arrows, because the hunter and the admiral had followed her through. The hunter had been shooting explosive arrows at it.
Wait, please tell me they entered scene on one of those sand boats.
No.
Oh, that would have been so good.
That would have been so cool, but no. He's shooting a few arrows, like having it like blow up and stumble a bit, and then apparently it revealed a hole in it where the gland that allows it to breathe fire is. And he shot an explosive arrow directly into that, causing a mass chain reaction explosion internally to make the Rathlos combust and burn itself completely alive till it's a smouldering heap of death. Which looked really cool, don't get me wrong. It looked amazing. Oh, so I think that part was absolutely phenomenal, and the fact that it's probably the only time a dragon movie has topped Reign of Fire's dragon death in general. Even though technically every monster in this movie except for the spider is a dragon, they're just different classifications of wyverns. And most people won't even realise that the flying wyvern category that Greater Rathlos is in is the same category that Diablos is in, even though the other one doesn't use its wings at all.
So is that all the notable deaths, or...?
Yeah, that's all the notable monster deaths.
So, the question I have to ask, where does Gormagala come in?
We'll get back to that.
Is that yet another pin inside the pin inside the pin?
No, that is the pin. But before I get to that major point, I will say that while I have a lot of good things to say about the movie, one thing that I was constantly annoyed with for a good half the movie was two things that they overused. Was two gimmicks that I hate in general. I don't care much for slow-mo scenes, and there was a bunch of them. Mostly at points that was not even needed. Like, when we're 3/4 into the movie, that point where the Rathlos attacks the helicopter she's in while she's in the stretcher,
yeah,
you have a slow-mo scene there. Where, like, it's the chopper's being crash landing and everything, and you have slow-mo which is like, and like having gasping slow motion, and I'm like, we're already this far into the film. Hurry the fuck up. I don't want to hear slow-mo gasping, I want to see Rathlos!
I didn't come to this movie to see slow-mo, I came to this movie to see monsters.
But one thing that's used more than that is jump scares. That's used more. I know it's a monster movie, and I know it's a kind of something like that, but it uses more jump scares than Five Nights at Freddy's. Everything has a jump scare. Nasilla has a jump scare. Diablos has multiple. Rathlos has multiple. Fucking everything has them. Cephalos. Now, you guys saw it in the trailer. The little sand thing that Rage Gaming made a mockery of because it's such one of the lowest tier fish wyvern type things. The Cephalos. That's when they're in.
You're telling me a fish got into this?
Yeah, the lowest category. There's these little ones that swim in the sand. That what happens is they go to the sand area, and she's just like, so they see the Apteros, and he explained that they're herbivores, and she's like, water is, he doesn't even move, he's just like, so you can tell he's setting her up for something. She walks a few steps, and then has to literally fall back as she gets a fucking jump scare on screen with the loud music and everything, as one of them jumps out of the scene and tries to attack her, and then he kills it, and then laughs at her and says, bait. Bait. But yeah, it's like, then they drink water and stuff, and I'm like, there's too many damn jump scares. I'm sorry, but like, I think only the Cephalos one and one other one got me, and then there's like 9 other.
But please tell me that the Admiral got a jump scare.
No.
Ah.
Nope, not at all. The every monster got one at least, or if not one, multiple. I'm like, just enough with the jump scare. No one gives a shit, or if someone does, by God, like they're probably like the top tier Five Nights at Freddy's fan, and then are looking for more jump scares. But it was just so bloody annoying. No one cares. But now that pin, I'm gonna take that out for a moment.
But we finally got to the pin.
Yeah. You remember the Amazing Spider-Man 2? The one with Shock, the electrical one, and the bad Green Goblin?
I'm not quite sure where you're going with this.
Well...
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Now, you remember probably the biggest and stupidest issue with that movie is that the trailer showed a lot of Rhino.
Yeah, it showed that really cool fight scene with Rhino and that metal...
And what did they do with that? They showed that actually happening literally about for a minute before the credits roll, so you saw about a few seconds of that actually fight happening without the actual fight happening, and then credits. Guess what they did to Gol Magala? Gol Magala shows up, literally all you see is just like they've killed Rathalos. They're just like, now we need to close the portal. It's just like, let's get through surviving this first. As you see, on top of the tower, Gol Magala showed up. It looks awesome. He's flying down. You see this dark mist trail behind him. He comes through the portal, and they're getting ready to fight him. Hunter has a Kinsek glaive. Switch axe, dual blades. You're ready to go. They're charging towards it. Credits.
Wait a minute. Wasn't the very first ad for this Monster Hunter movie had Gol Magala and Rathalos fighting in like a shopping mall or something?
Well, on one side they realized how stupid that was and cut that. On the other side, they're just like, you know what? Now we're just not going to give Gol Magala or anything.
Now we can have sequel bait.
Yeah. Now, oh, and get this, there's an extra plot twist.
What, there's something after the credits?
Yes, there's a post-credits, like that point where you have like the funny, not the funny,
the fancy credits, then you have the normal credits.
Yeah, between the fancy credits and normal credits, where you have that post-credits little scene, you have a tiny bit, and this is what's gonna piss you off even more. You have a scene where they've apparently gone back to the portal fighting Gol Magala. I have an elevated view of them, where you have what looks like the 3 of them fighting. You have right on a whole really high ledge, you have mysterious hooded figure who you can't see the face of, just watching the fight. You don't know who the hell they are, but they're just a hood figure that you can't see the face of that's just watching what the fight is. And then it happens. This fight only lasts for a few seconds, but before the next part of the credits roll, you see the Meowscular Chef drop into the fight with a knife that's glowing, ready to join the fight. He charges the camera to join the fight. Credits.
Oh!
So first they show us Gol Magala for nothing. They do the same thing they did in the fucking Amazing Spider-Man film, where they show probably one of the best things and the most threatening thing in the film. They show it for like a minute, probably tops. Credits, so you don't get to see us even watching it, like get to see this epic fight, and then the post-credit scene where you see like a very far angle with like probably like about 30 seconds of them actually fighting it before it cuts to the hidden guy, but then you see the Meowscular Chef actually get to join in the fight, but you don't get to see them fight. I'm like, come on!
I think that one stabbed a little hard in the Gol Magala.
Yeah, I'm like, you get to see him fight! That would have been epic! This should have been the climactic fight, not the fucking Great Rathalos!
Just have Meowscular Chef fighting the Greater Ravalos.
Yeah, it's like, I'll be showing pictures of this, and it pissed me off to no end. I'm like, Gore Magala is the biggest thing, because for the people that actually don't know the Monster Hunter franchise, I will clue you in on one thing. With Gore Magala, everything else, don't get me wrong, they are top tier monsters in their own categories. Like Flying Wyverns, Diablos, and Rufflos are really high up. In the Arachnids, technically until Rise comes out, Nocilla is the only large arachnoid monster.
So in other words, is the top.
She is the top tier, but she's still quite a powerful monster. Then you have Gore Magala. Unless they're going to change the classification now, in the previous classifications, he has question marks because he's not in any of them. He grows up into Shagaru Magala, which is a gigantic golden form, which indeed is an Elder Dragon. And mind you, if that wasn't bad enough, the black one we see is still a baby, even though it's a huge threat. It's also a walking apocalypse, which spreads a virus. They're called the Frenzy Virus, which is literally just like little hairs that fall off it that create this gigantic black mist. Any monster that breathes that in dies. Literally a couple hours later will resurrect as I guess you could call it a zombified version. It literally becomes a version where it doesn't need food or sleep or anything like that, but it becomes a version of itself that is multiple times more powerful in strength, speed, and is ultimately just aggressive all around.
So in other words, a super zombie.
Yeah, it becomes an absolute super zombie, which its only design is not to eat or anything, it's to kill. It will go around killing absolutely if pretty much like the Indominus from Jurassic World. It kills anything that moves. Like going around just attacking everything. Now, thing is though, that's good and all. That's great, that looks awesome. But then they die, and then after 3 days, and he comes and eats them. But everything this thing attacks also gets infected. So all the corpses it leaves behind will eventually get up and start killing more shit. So it is a walking apocalypse. And this thing got less than a minute of screen time? Are you serious? But anyway, overall, yeah, that's about all of the points I should make, and we're already at 56 minutes, goddamn. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my rambling. This is overall, it's not worth the slack people are giving it. Don't get me wrong, it has some bad points, I will admit, because I was able to go through it neutrally because I can view it from both a Monster Hunter fan side, but as a general moviegoer side. So I was able to view it for things that I didn't like being a moviegoer, and I was able to view it for things that I didn't like via being Monster Hunter fan. And honestly, people that are calling it shit, they're not giving it a proper chance. It's not worth as much bad flack that it's getting. It's not perfect, but then again, what movie is? There are only a very few list of movies that you can truly call perfect, and even then, you're probably going to find someone to bitch about them. You can't please everyone.
At the very least, the graphics of the monsters look good.
Yeah, they did. In all the points that mattered, they were far beyond. The world design, great. The movie's monsters design, absolutely phenomenal. They went above and beyond. The characters, although there were 3 of them that I had a bit of issues with, there wasn't any characters I genuinely hated, except for maybe those 2 little pricks. But in general, it was a good movie. I give it a solid I would say a 7 or 8 out of 10, so that's why I'm going with a solid 7.5 out of 10. Because, honestly, it is a good watch, and I do recommend it to anyone that wants to watch it. But, don't just listen to other people's bitching. Watch it for yourself, make your own opinion. Because, at the end of the day, you could like it, you could hate it. Everyone's valid to their own opinion. This is just my opinion on it because I liked it. I will probably buy it when it comes onto DVD and Blu-ray, and I'll probably watch it again because it is good. But for now, my friends, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit the bell notification icon down below to be notified by any of our shenanigans that we post every week. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, check our videos, and we shall see you in the next video.
When they bring out the sequel.
When they bring out the sequel. Thank you and goodbye.